My name's Patty Smart, and I brought in a cane that belonged to my father, Carl Mackenzie, that was given to him by a prisoner of war. After the war, instead of coming home, he elected to stay, and he was an escort guard for prisoners that were taken to the trials.
Canada still had work to do in Germany after the Nazis surrendered, ending the Second World War. Approximately 17,000 Canadian troops stayed to serve in the Allied occupation force. The Allies divided Germany and Austria into 4 occupation zones, administered by the Soviet Union, the US, France, and Britain. The Allies rounded up thousands of German men and women suspected of crimes, including involvement in the Nazis' horrific concentration camp system, and detained them for trial. Among the internment camps operated by the British, with Canadian assistance, was Esterwegen, a former concentration camp built by the Nazis.
So you've brought something for us to have a look at.
Yes.
What can you tell me about this?
This is a cane that was given to my father the year after the war. He was a prison guard that escorted prisoners to the war trials. This is the only thing that he brought back from the war.
As we can see, it's definitely a hand-carved piece. It's got some stars at the top, pig's head, and a snake going down it with a crest. Did you know anything about the individual that carved it?
No, just what Dad told me. The gentleman that made it, in appreciation for Father giving him the cigarettes that he hadn't had in a long time. He wasn't a soldier. I think he was a burgermeister of a small village. He never held grudges against the German citizenry. They weren't an enemy to him at this point.
Human beings are human beings. And in my personal opinion, the war had ended, and it's human nature, Why not? Why treat him as your enemy? The war is over and you can move on. And he was basically the local town burgermeister or mayor, so probably went along with things, but wasn't necessarily a war criminal. So Patty, this cane was produced in the town of Esterwegen. Is that correct?
I'm not sure if it was in Esterwegen. I think it's where the prisoner of war came from. And I believe there was a prison where they held people that were going up to trial to see if they were collaborators.
Esterwegen was actually opened in 1933 as one of the sub-camps of concentration camps. It was in operation until 1936 as a concentration camp, not a death camp, but a concentration camp for mostly political prisoners. In 1936, I believe it was handed over to the Justice Department in Germany, and they used it for political prisoners up until 1945. In the period that your father was there in 1946, it was used as a British internment camp for higher-ranking Nazi collaborators that, as you say, would have been awaiting trial and being investigated to see what their involvement in the war was. Esterwegen was part of the German camp system, concentration camp system that existed from the rise of Hitler, and when Hitler took power in 1933, they started opening a lot of these camps. After a while, these camps were made bigger, and they closed a lot of the smaller camps, and actually Esterwegen was a camp that was sold off by the SS to the German justice system to be used for political prisoners, and that money was actually used to start up Sachsenhausen concentration camp, which eventually became a death camp as well. What kind of relationship did your father have with the prisoner?
Well, he must have had a good relationship because he loaned him his knife.
Okay, to do the carving.
To do the carving.
Directly following the fall of the Third Reich, there was a non-fraternization order given out to all the Commonwealth, American, and Russian troops that were participating in the German campaign. In the beginning, that was the case, but after a while, young boys being young boys, of course, fraternization took place, and relationships were built right after the war. And the war had come to an end, and already the Cold War was looming. So I think a lot of people sensed that it was time to move on. Prisoner of war art has a long tradition that goes back to the Napoleonic Wars. Prisoners at that time, both French and English, could produce small things such as this, and they could actually sell them to make money to pay for various things. Some of the more exotic examples are and well-known examples are the prisoner of war art carved ships that were done by French sailors, which are very, very detailed and actually quite expensive today. This is a great piece. It would be great if we knew more about the individual. We could actually do some research and maybe find out who that individual was. So Patty, what are your plans for the cane?
Well, they're going to go back to the 180-year-old house and hang on the entrance wall. And everybody that comes in can see it.
Excellent.
It will go to either grandson that I'm not sure. As I say, I may split it down the middle and give half to one who was a vet and the other half to the other.
I think it's a great piece. It's an important part of your family's history. I would suggest that you write everything down about the story and attach it, just so that part never gets lost. I do appreciate you bringing this in, and I really enjoyed talking about your dad.
Well, thank you. And I'm sorry that he's not here.
I would love to have talked to him.
Unfortunately, he died a year and a half ago, and but he would have had stories to tell you.
No, it's too bad.
Yeah.
Well, thanks again.
And thank you for having me, and Father's cane.